I'm Chris Knoch, and I work with IgnitionOne, and today we're going to be talking about guerrilla marketing, integrating knowledge from social into search. But it's going to be a little bit more than that. When we started to recruit people for this, it seemed a little limiting to just say social into search, so we expanded the tent. It's really going to focus on guerrilla marketing, I hope, tactics, so that you guys will have takeaways on how you can use basically some channels that you might not think of, or tactics that you might not think of, to influence your search programs. And before I introduce everybody, I want to have a challenge for everybody. This is my favorite search show by far. And the one thing that I like most about it, yep. Yeah, exactly. They're very loud clappers. And you pack the room with them, obviously. But the thing that I like most is the conversations. And what I would like to do, and I would challenge everybody to do here, is let's break down the third wall. Please keep both of the Robs busy running around with microphones and ask questions, and even better, provide some tactics. I would love to hear, and I've spent the last 36 hours finding who you people are. So Williams-Sonoma, Kayak stepped out, but I see the Macy's team over there, the Home Depot team. You guys, if you want to speak up, I would really appreciate to hear some of the tactics that you guys are using in this way, because we can all learn from each other like we do at a bar at about 10 o'clock, where we fade in and out of professional talk.
And please keep Rob and I running. With the amount of alcohol I consumed last night, I do need to burn off those calories.
Exactly, exactly. So I'll let each panelist introduce themselves, and let's start off with Luke.
Luke Coltrin, currently the director of SEM at Autonation. It's the country's largest auto retailer. We own about 300 car dealerships. As most of us are probably aware, it's a really fragmented market. So we're in the process of trying to really build a strong brand in the auto industry. Previous stops at TripAdvisor.com and Overstock.com.
Hello, Jason Lehmbeck, CEO, co-founder of DataPop. We've built a little marketing cyborg we nicknamed Addy, seen probably on the Twitter stream and the stickers outside. Addy helps marketers and agencies build ads that people love to click on. Just a fun fact, the reason why Guerrilla is in the title is because Jonathan Mendez is on the panel.
That's bananas, Jason. Just bananas. Jonathan Mendez, CEO of Yieldbot. Yieldbot is a real-time marketplace where search buyers can connect in real time to consumer intent in premium publishers.
Prashant, Puri, CEO of AdLift. We're a niche SEO agency working with both enterprise e-commerce players along with startups in the Valley.
Perfect. So let's just start with what the title of this thing is, and maybe Prashant, you can start us off, which is, how are you guys using social signals right now? Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What are some tactics you guys are using to get the natural search results, or even inform a paid search campaign from social data streams?
Yeah, so what we found out, with all the different updates that are happening on Google's end, Panda and Penguin, the tactics that used to work in 2005 or 7 don't work anymore. So we needed to start thinking out of the box. And social was a big channel to utilize. So one case study that comes to my mind is we're working very closely with a leading luxury e-commerce website, and they did a completely overhaul of the entire website. Big propensity of their overhaul was on user experience, so they decided to go with Ajax, which is not very SEO friendly. So we kind of went over that hoop where we use push state to get all the URLs indexed once Google and Bing start to crawl. But how do you do that, not in 6 months or 12 months, but how do you do that fast? So one of the things that we did was we actually started to submit a lot of their content and products, which they spend a lot of time, money, and dollars in creating on StumbleUpon. And we submitted it through feeds. We spent not more than $7 a single URL.
This is a discount tactic. He told me about this one earlier.
Yeah.
So listen,
And,
$7.
And it started to go viral. Wall Street Journal picked it up, TechCrunch picked it up, and from that point on, it was, within about 3 months' time, they had indexed close to 400,000 URLs.
So again, the challenge here is using social media streams to get a new site indexed faster and potentially help it rank better.
Yeah.
And you took the URLs, and what were the channels that you used? Like what was the distribution network you used?
Yeah, so one of the channels was, obviously you go to Webmaster Tool and you submit it. Usually sometimes that takes a lot longer. So,
sure.
A couple of channels that we used was Twitter. So one other example that comes to my mind is working closely with a huge financial institution. And you know how banks are. It takes a lot of time to make small changes on their website. So how do you get those URLs indexed and ranked? You already have a very high authority in the space, so it's actually just getting it indexed is when you start to get ranked. And we started to use Twitter to do that. So we actually went out tweeting new URLs, non-spammy. It's a great product, big competitor of Square, which everybody uses, and started to see those URLs get indexed and then ranked for all the different keywords.
Has anybody, by show of hands, has anybody done that? Like tweeted URLs in order to get them indexed faster? Anybody? All right, new stuff. Nice. So yeah, well, Rob, of course you have. You tweet everything though. So let's move along to, so I know, John, you had talked about, you guys had been using even some channels like Pinterest and everything like that to inform some of your data decisions. Can you take us through, like, maybe how a day-to-day marketer could leave right here today and use some of that data that you guys are using in a more sophisticated way? Yeah,
sure. So, we're in somewhat of a unique position because we get, our partners are the publishers themselves, so we are, our tags and our JavaScript is sitting there first party, so we're able to pick up all the referrer data and see where the different channels they're coming from are and the pages and click paths that they consume while they're there. We're very highly focused in the women's lifestyle vertical, so Pinterest is a huge player in that space. In fact, they drive way more traffic than even Facebook for most of our publishers. And so, what we look at and see is, just even bounce rates, very interesting metrics around, depending on where they're coming from, what the pins are. It varies. It's the interesting thing is it really varies by category and vertical. Food is different than health, and so there's a lot of really rich data there to try to understand. It's more about the publisher's content than necessarily the actual person or referrer coming. And I think that's Kevin talked a little bit before. I thought it was really great how Kevin was talking about the publishers and their role in all of this, which I think is really kind of under emphasized a lot of times, and that for us is where it's the middle layer, right? Because search and social are driving a lot of traffic, and the publishers sit in the middle because they're getting that traffic there, and then oftentimes it's going back out into social, and we have advertiser marketers that come and want to drive it specifically back into social, again, the thing is it's analogous to search in that when they're coming there, they have intent coming.
So what is the data you're using from a Pinterest? Like, take us through a use case. So somebody has, maybe an application of very ancillary, complementary Pinterest page.
Yeah.
How is that driving to the publishers? Or the publishers posting Pinterest page? Like, how does that?
The people are posting to their boards. They're pinning content, so we're able to see the content that's being pinned.
Okay.
And where it's pinned. And then we're able to see the traffic back to those pins.
Okay.
From those pins to the original pages.
Okay.
Because that's where it ends up taking you, and then the click paths from there. And so again, it's really it's a great window into I would say interest. but I'd say Pinterest.
Yeah.
Both.
There's almost like a play on words there.
Yeah. How'd they come up with that name?
I don't know.
What a brilliant name for a company. But it really is because you know, it's just that business has exploded, and on the back of publishers, really, just much like Google, it's kind of analogous, right? Where you took all this content and you kind of brought it over to yourself and your own kind of business and start driving traffic from it. So, great model.
Sure. So just asking the audience a question, and again, if nobody volunteers, I'll call on certain people. Is anybody maybe using Pinterest as a research tool for their search campaigns? Anybody? Nobody? Williams-Sonoma, Macy's, you guys ever using any of that stuff to inform your search campaigns?
Well, it's good. It's all, you know, on the Pinterest boards themselves, they're all tagged. It's very keyword rich.
So it's very keyword rich.
Yeah, and they create boards around, I mean, there's tons of keyword data on Pinterest.
So the idea there could be if you found maybe fans of your Pinterest page or similar things to the products that you're looking at, you can analyze those Pinterest pages to find potentially new tags or new targets.
How the consumers are categorizing themselves,
Correct.
What that content is, because they're creating those tags and those hierarchies, keyword hierarchies literally, right?
Because it's their lexicon. It's how they talk about your brand and the things that, and maybe not your brand, but the stuff you sell from your brand and everything like that. Got it. That's an interesting one. So moving on to Jason. So Jason, I asked him to join because let's expand a little bit outside of social. And we've talked a lot today about PLAs, obviously text ad optimization. But I was interested to get his perspective on if there's a two-way street there. Obviously, we're using our search programs and our data feeds to create PLAs, and we use our search programs we're trying to create the best text ads. But is there a path back from what text ad is working to how maybe I structure my campaigns better, or do I find keywords? Are you seeing any of that stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I think many of us have believed in this notion from the beginning of search, but if you think about search, it's the biggest focus group there ever was, right? You have millions of people every day telling you what they're interested in, what they're looking for, and then not only are they telling you that, but then you get the back-end performance data to understand, are you engaging with them? If you think about PLA, it's an even more commercial focus group, right? This is like highly targeted consumers in the moment looking for products. And so the way that we approach it, there's sort of two tactics that we take, and I've seen a number of sophisticated marketers take. There's the research tactic, which lines up really well with what Jonathan's talking about. You can look at the data. I mean, we all love the Search Insider Summit. We're like pigs and shit when it comes to data, wallowing in the data. You look at all the data that comes in from SQRs, from the query reports. Always been doing that with search. Now you get into PLA, and some of the data that you get in those query reports on PLA is just phenomenal. You can think about starting to learn how Google is matching your products to the intent of the consumer, but then you can start to optimize that and get really interesting insights out of that query report data. And then on the flip side of that is the optimization end. And so I think if you look at what you can do now in PLA and starting to optimize your titles and understanding how those titles drive matches, so you can better title matches better in PLA, but then how do those titles drive engagement with the end consumer? Those are insights you can use to optimize not only your PLA feeds, but your ads and paid search.
And what about like landing pages? Like you informed, because that's the one thing that, the most jarring thing you can do with your search ads is say one thing in your search ad and the landing page has nothing to do with it.
Yep.
So do you see anybody using the phraseology of optimized text ads in their landing pages? Is that happening
It's
at all?
happening text ad to landing page, and it's happening now PLA to landing page, and it has the benefit of promise given or promise made, promise delivered for the consumer. But the other thing we're seeing is it's having the benefit in SEO.
And how do you scale that though? So let's say I'm a retailer with 1 million SKUs. What are the tactics people are using to take something like a PLA ad that has a specific name for a product that's maybe optimized, but my site doesn't call it that, but maybe I do need to call it that so people feel at home with what they were searching for?
Yeah, this is a big challenge. I think, you know, obviously there's technology like DataPop, AdCommunity, other players that are helping to address this challenge, but take the technology side out of it for a second. What I would say is, if you think about how all of you have been working in paid search, really structuring your paid search campaigns, connecting it to intent, and the Lenovo presentation hit this really well, the customer discovery path, organizing your campaigns in that way. Once you structure your campaigns, paid search and PLA using the product targets, with that structure that matches to what you're selling and how consumers are engaging with it, then you can start to do this research and analysis without the tools. I would argue to do thousands of SKUs, constantly updating, optimizing, you need the tools. But even without the tools, if you have that structure there, you can start to do your own title testing within PLA and paid search to understand what's driving match rates. Do I put the product name up at the top of the title? I put it at the end. It's like the old SEO game in some respects.
Sure, sure.
But so I would say structure is the key, because then you can start to get the insights, and product target structure is a great way to start to unlock that tactic.
Perfect. Now, Luke, one thing I wanted to ask you about, you know, now we're going to, the one brand that we could get up
token brand.
The token brand, which, guys, we got to fix this. I was trying to drag some of you up here last night. I was giving you drinks and you wouldn't come up on the stage. Come on. But the token brand, one of the things that, especially if we're looking more at social, is if you're mining social ads or social interactions for new keywords, or it could be more top of the funnel. It could be more of those fluffy keywords. It's like the way maybe your customers are describing you at a high level. It's interesting, but when you get down to brass tacks, are the ROI results going to be there for the way that you're judged with your search marketing campaign?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think all of us who are on the brand side, most of us are going to be direct response based, and if it's upper funnel, it's not going to perform as well, and so you have to you kind of have to balance that. You have to segment your program a little bit to say, okay, I'm going to have this budget that will support these upper funnel keywords, with the hope, and hopefully you have data support this, that there's, you know, helping them get further down the funnel to purchase. But certainly...
So not last click attribution models, basically?
Yeah, I mean, that's ideally, yes.
Okay. And I mean, what is is it something that you feel like, I mean, you've been at Overstock or O.co.
Don't get on that topic. Yeah. Come on.
TripAdvisor, and now you're at Autonation. Is there ever a tolerance from management for a search person to move up the funnel? Or are you in any way incentivized, or are we just, again, are we doing what I mentioned earlier, strategic pontification? Are we just talking about crap that nobody can use from a search marketing perspective? How do you sell that in an organization when you're a search marketer?
It's challenging because more often than not, your budgets and your executives are going to be very focused on that bottom line. You can talk about upper funnel and, oh, I have this research and I have this data, but man, at the end of the day, if you have to make some cuts, you're going to cut the stuff that's not producing the bottom line results that you're looking for. So certainly, I think that's where the attribution model comes into play, is the assist clicks, or this is along the purchase path, and this is how much we're valuing it. But certainly for every place that I've been has been last click, and so it is very challenging to have the budget and the support from the kind of hierarchy of the organization to...
So attribution models can be a huge barrier to expanding beyond just last click, it got the sale, and it has some value.
Agreed.
Jason?
Well, one thing I was going to say, and this came up in the previous panel too, I mean, there's this block right now, who owns social? And then the second block that Luke just brought up is the block we've all faced, the sort of upper funnel versus lower funnel block. And I think those are valid things that we have to press through, but I think one thing I would say and really push on, and Jonathan and Luke hit on this a bit, is that there's the buying side of social and upper funnel, but then there's the research and the data side.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a block there, right? Like, I think there's a lot of stuff that as marketers, and especially search marketers, we can get in and start to play with that data and understand consumer intent and behavior, leverage it wherever we are buying media and wherever we have the budget and ROI. And so that's the thing I think we can focus on, is control what you can control.
Well, not only that, and it's one thing, the other thing that we mentioned in the description of this is the idea of remarketing and informed remarketing. One of the values of search in a remarketing campaign, specifically when you're product focused, like maybe some of the PLA stuff, is somebody hits the site for a very specific product. If they show interest, and you can tag them as having interest or at least browsed around, then you can talk about blurred lines. I mean, Facebook's now owned media, it's earned media, it's paid on Marketplace, and now you've got Facebook Exchange. They just, for those of you that don't know, I mean, Facebook's now allowing you to not only retarget on Facebook, but you have the ability to retarget with what product that person was looking at. So if they showed interest, maybe they even came through a PLA ad, you have the ability to put that product right in front of them. Have you been working with any partners that are doing that yet?
Yeah, we work with a couple of partners on this front, and the biggest challenge, which has been the challenge since the beginning of time, is do those pages describe that product in a way that consumers search for it ultimately, or when they land on it, and then how do you retarget that into an environment, whatever it is, a social environment, a display environment, and it's sort of the garbage in, garbage out problem, right? Like to really fine tune your retargeting to make sure you're talking to those consumers in a way that really engages them. You can't just spit back the title of that page that a merchandiser wrote, or sure, that the product title in a catalog that a merchandiser wrote, because it doesn't connect to what consumers are looking for. But that bridge is happening. Retargeting is a great use of the data you can get out of PLA traffic, because it is it's that commercial focus group that's better than everything out there, including top of the funnel paid search for ROI.
Sure. So we just talked a lot about ads. Let's shift back maybe to SEO. I mean, Prashant, are there any other tactics that we could be using from a social perspective to inform our SEO? I mean, what's some of the stuff that you guys have been seeing that's working? I know previous panel talked about it, but maybe working off of some of the stuff they were talking about.
Yeah, so I think the previous panel touched upon this, but one thing that we've seen is a huge increase in click-through rates when you have the rel authorship tag on your blog. So previously the top 3 results used to drive close to 50–55% of click-through rate on SERPs. We've done tests where it's all over the board. So if you're ranking on the 5th position, you could be driving close to 10% of click-through rates, which is traditionally what you see maybe in the 2nd position. So if you kind of do A/B tests on people who actually search and they see a photograph, an author, someone they know who's in the circle, that really helps. So we really push for a lot of our clients to actually start getting the blog going, updating it, and then getting Google Plus and rel authorship going.
So you're saying if there's an author that has lots of followers for their blog, or some type of person that writes in that space, if you can contact them, they actually will rank higher and get higher click-through rates if they're recognized.
Yeah, so typically, if you see, for the most part, if you're searching, you'll see personalized results, right? And then you see an author photograph with circles. So that's typically someone that's already in the circle of people that you know. So getting those e-commerce sites or getting those blog sites to actually have that tag on is huge. Even now, most if you sort of do random searches, you'll figure out that close to 80% of blog sites out there don't have that today. So that's like missed opportunity right there.
Got it. So as a brand, maybe we could, you've got a social team that's fostered relationships with bloggers and authors, and they kind of curate that content in some ways, obviously, but maybe the DR team has no contact, no interaction with the social media blogging PR person, maybe a way for brands to talk to them is to say, hey, make sure that they've got their Google Circle, that they're seeking followers and they're seeking an audience, because it'll help our search results. Not only help where we rank, but help on the click-through rates.
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect, perfect. See, we're tearing down silos now. That's a reason for a search marketer to go talk to the person that manages blogging relationships. Who knew? Who knew? So,
yeah, look, if I could just pick up on that for a second, I think, what that is, what that's showing, and I think it's where everything kind of merges together. So if you talk about the Guerrilla piece, is that the content and advertising are really becoming one thing, and almost indistinguishable. So I think Yahoo's, what they showed last night is really a preview into that, where literally, it's hard to distinguish between what is content, what is advertising. Or the original original search ads were that way, even to this day, right? People did not know what it was. I think we're moving in that direction, whether it's because of native ads, whether it's because of social. I mean, these are all areas where content and
it's almost like the consumption channel. It's like it reminded me what Yahoo showed us was of kind of like the Facebook news feed, where like news feed ads, it's almost like the best ones don't look like an ad. They look like they add value or entertainment. They're like, the age of shitty marketing might be, kind of going away. You've got to hone in a message. You have to have good content all of a sudden, rather than just buying your way in.
Well, and great advertising has always been about the good content in the marketing and in the advertising as well. So I think also that with that something we haven't touched on at all really is the impact within social and even now search of mobile in that, and the importance of having quality content in your messaging, whether it's a brand message, whether it's something driving into social, whether it's in social and driving out to your marketer controlled experience. The context of that is very important, and if you're on a mobile device, it becomes even more so that it's kind of integrated into the context of the experience.
Well, and you said one thing. You said that marketing has always been about good content, and I would say it hasn't been for our industry. I've worked at a number of bid optimization tools, and we basically left an opening, and us as marketers, I believe, left an opening in the industry for like content. Like, we weren't focusing. That's why we have Boost CTR. That's why we have DataPop. We knew we had scale challenges, but where do we spend our time? I'm going to spend my time expanding scope and audience by expanding keywords, and I'm going to spend my time optimizing bids. But when it came to us, we're data geeks. I mean, a lot of us are, this is getting more money, give it more money. When it came to doing real marketing, we left a pretty big hole in our game. And thankfully, guys like you, guys like Boost are coming into the space. I mean, how big is this thing? How big of a missed opportunity is it to not focus on that stuff right now?
Yeah, I've referred to it as we're moving from day trading to marketing, right? And I think in many respects, it was a great first wave of technology innovation to enable keywords and bidding and paying for performance. But this is a precious resource. Somebody is telling you they're interested in something, and if you're putting up an ad that looks like every other ad in the marketplace, doesn't evoke your brand personality, what's different about what you have versus somebody else's, that's a wasted resource. And we have, as an industry, I think we got to take care of that, because we could go the way of the banner ad dodo bird if people start looking at those ads and don't see it as content, or don't really engage with it in a valuable way. So I think I don't think it's a third pillar. I think it's the pillar that we have to really focus on and make sure that we're relevant as an industry and as advertisers.
Well, I mean, it's something that we haven't focused on as an industry, because, I mean, we haven't focused on the ads, and we talked about continuity from the ad to the landing page. I mean, John, I know you came from Offermatica, which, still nobody spends the kind of money that they should on just landing page optimization. Time, effort, money. You compare it to getting the traffic there, it's like, it's night and day.
Double your conversion rate and you have your CPA, so.
Yeah, exactly. Like I double my conversion rate, that's a heck of a lot of impact more than like tweaking my bid.
Yeah, I think there's something interesting happening, which is, you know, the last panel talked a little bit about where budgets are coming from, and there's going to be even more of a fight for budgets because we see, you know, social budgets. These budgets are very siloed. Social's getting a lot of money right now. And I think the danger is, and I used to talk about how search is going to end up dominating display, and this was 5-6 years ago, and of course we did, and Google came in and owns display. And so it's great for the search folks, and retargeting and all of that stuff has been fantastic for us. But as far as the search industry goes, and people sitting in this room, you know, the challenge is, if you think about social, and social buying on social, it is keyword based, and it is a CPC mostly. And those budgets are being controlled by different groups who are buying keywords on a cost per click basis and getting a lot of money. And you know, there is danger to the search budgets. Same way that search has gone in and taken over a lot of display buying. There is a potential that it could go the other way, right? And the people who are running your social programs right now will be the ones that have your job in 4 or 5 years because they're buying the same way you're buying, and if they can prove the value of it, and there's a shit ton of money going to prove that value right now through Nielsen and all kinds of other measurement firms that are focusing on the value of social traffic and social marketing and social advertising back to consumer sentiment and all the way to purchase, then those are where the budgets will flow, and that's where the priorities will be, and those people will end up running those things. And so the marriage of search and social, which has been going on and going more, gaining more steam, is really, really interesting in terms of who ends up controlling the dollars, and if they stay siloed or if they somehow merge together in the future.
Got it, got it. So George, Mitchie, in the audience, upper funnel search term is bullshit spin. Poor conversion, whether touch, first touch, last touch, or other. Do you care to expand on that? You call bullshit on the panel. Come on, dude. Somebody get that guy a microphone over there. That's right, I got my Twitter feed up here, folks. I will call you out. Class is in session.
I'm glad somebody's paying attention. Yeah, no, you know, anybody who has an attribution management system has looked into this. And, you know, whether you're giving credit to first touch, last touch, or doing sophisticated modeling, 99.9% of the time, the keywords that look like they're shit last touch are also shit, no matter how you look at them. And the question is it good branding at, you know, a 50-cent visit to your site or a $1 visit to your site? You're talking about $500 to $1,000 cost per impression, very targeted impression, but it's branding. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah. But does branding have a place in our lexicon? I mean, we have completely different standards. One of the challenges here is that search people are addicted to data. Like, if we can't prove that there was an exact value for every interaction, it's of no value. I mean, where you sit and the brands that you work with, I mean, they do branding. They talk about branding. Like, how are we going to bridge that gap better? How are we going to, make it a two-way street where maybe search can learn something from branding? Because, quite frankly, we do what you said. We call bullshit on branding. We're like, bullshit, branding has no value. How can we derive value from branding efforts? Yeah,
and I am not by any means saying that branding doesn't have value. Obviously it does. Coke and Budweiser are big successful companies for a reason. Marketing works. I'm just saying we should do it with our eyes open and think about the different kinds of impressions that we're buying and the cost of those impressions, and let's figure out what those things are worth. I'm not saying you shouldn't brand. I'm just saying let's do it with eyes open and put some rigor around it.
Sure. So audience, panel, anybody, I mean, like, what are some of the other two-way streets that we're missing?
Yeah, somebody else talk.
So George, I think the $500 CPF, we love free buying.
No, I mean, if you
Say that again and identify yourself.
Sorry, Frost Preload Simplify. Hello.
Yeah, introduce yourself.
All righty. So, love to hear how your math is working into $500 to $1,500 CPMs.
So it depends on what you call an impression. If you're talking about an impression on a text ad as meaningful, how many of you can identify the brands of the last search you did that were advertising? Nobody has recall of that beyond 5 seconds. The impression, the real impression from a branding perspective, is a visit to your website where they get to see what you do and what you sell and what you have. That's an impression. So at a 50-cent click, you're talking about a $500 CPM.
Do the math on that for me.
Okay. A CPM means...
All right, you guys got to huddle with a napkin.
Impressions.
Yeah, I know that.
Maybe a slide rule.
Per visit.
Do they still make slide rules?
Do the math times 1,000.
So what click-through rate are you working with?
Well, click-through rate doesn't matter.
We'll take it offline.
Yeah, we're going to take that offline. So, guys, I mean, the other thing we've got, how much time we got? Like 3-4 minutes. I want to open up for, rather than asking the audience questions, why don't the audience ask us some questions? Or maybe give us other insights. Right up front? Right up front? Ah, 2 hands went up.
Thanks. Bill Connard from Rio SEO. So we're seeing some of our customers using social analytics and for guerrilla marketing around dark social, or copying and pasting URLs and incentivizing the customers to share with their friends to get badges or get coupons or get promotions. Have you guys any experience around using social incentives to share with your friends to get better deals?
You guys done that?
Yeah, so we ourselves don't run a platform like that, but we've seen a number of customers do that, clients who actually do that. From an SEO perspective, it's awesome, right? Because you're now giving some sort of incentive. One would argue, 5 years down the line, it's probably going to be paid social links. But you're sort of giving incentive to get that tweet or to get that share or that mention, which works great for the product.
So, Luke, I mean, did you ever do, I know you were at Overstock as, it's less than a year ago. Did you guys do any of like the social sharing incentivization, like any of the social couponing or anything like that? Did you ever have any insights into that?
We didn't. We would certainly use social to promote the incentives that we were providing. So I think with Groupon or with Living Social, we did a 10 for 20 that was, share with your friends, tweet this, etc. Honestly, in such a thin margin environment that Overstock has, doing something like that and starting to get into these meaningful promotions and discounts, they just couldn't support it at the end of the day. So I think they have also done some shady stuff with, back in the day, with trying to get people to, refer back to Overstock.com for the links, and you would get a discount for that. And so that was the main reason that they were put in the Google penalty box about 2 years ago.
So a lot of the stuff that's considered guerrilla tactics is very speculative. And clearly you all have limited budgets, you all have limited amount of time. So I'd love to hear the process that you use in sort of identifying which shiny objects to engage with and which shiny objects to say, it's bullshit, I don't want to do this. So how do you go, what's the decision-making process that you use in which shiny guerrilla object to go after within social
Luke?
or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it would be similar theme to yesterday, follow the money. So let's say 2.5 years ago, Google came to me and said, hey, we have this beta product called PLAs. Would you like to try it out? Yeah, sure, I'll put up 9 subcategories, do that for a week, and we realize, holy crap, this thing is awesome. A week later, we have our whole product line ready to go through it. But they all don't work like that. They came up with I think they've renamed it because the beta performance was so bad, but the beta was called keywordless ads. And you would spend all this money on ads and keywords that you didn't have coverage on, thinking, hey, you know, the branding impression will help me, even though I may not even have a product remotely like that on my website. So I think, to me, it's follow the money, who's supporting it, and then giving it a realistic shot to see, okay, can it be profitable, can it be scalable? If it can't scale from the get-go, man, I don't think it's going to be worth my time.
Yeah, I would just play off of the scale piece, you know, use Copeland's metric from yesterday. I think he said 100 million of whatever. You know, you think about Google with PLA, that's kind of an easy, this is going to scale if it works, so I might as well experiment with it. The others are things like Foursquare, but it's a different kind of scale. Are you looking for geo-rich scale environments? And so it depends on what your objectives are, what you're marketing, but I would look for shiny objects that have that scale potential behind it before you invest too much effort into it, given all the other things on your plate.
I would just add, I think most of the guerrilla tactics I've seen in the space have been around data collection and data acquisition. So you know, there's a lot of people doing a lot of interesting and, you know, probably not so kosher things there.
Would you call it big data?
It's always big data.
All right, all right.
Does Rob have to do a shot? Where is it?
Yeah, Rob has to do a shot every time somebody says big data.
Yeah, I think the one thing I love about the internet space is, you know, you do need to prioritize, but it's not like, you know, you sort of, you're selling a washing machine product which needs to go through the whole product life cycle for 6 months, and once it hits the shelf, you realize no one's buying it, which gives us the flexibility to actually test and learn. One example that comes to my mind is, how many of you have tried out rich snippets? Schema.org? Yeah, so this is, you know, this is one area where we looked at and we said, okay, you know, typically brand click-through rates are about, you know, 40 to 50%. How do we actually increase that? So we aggregated reviews for this particular brand, and we added the rich snippets. It was probably, you know, 24 to 48 hours of work for the big brand also, and we added that on their homepage, aggregating their reviews, and in about, you know, a couple of days, the stars started to show for the brand searches. The 40% click-through rate went to 65%. So it's things like this that you probably, you know, you're not gonna see it till you actually try it out and it works, that you can start propagating it across. And if it doesn't, you kind of learn from that. Got it.
So getting the signal that we've been talking too long, and
no, just you,
just me, always me. So I want to thank the panel, and I want to thank the audience for a good interactive session. It sounds like there's some napkin math that's going to occur back in the back of this thing.